Welcome back to my studio, welcome back to my channel. Today, as you saw on the thumbnail, we're going to be making music like Elderbrook. We're going to divide this video in 4 different parts. We're going to start with the most important, the vocal. I'm going to show you how you can find and make good vocals for your music, but also how to produce a good vocal. Then we're going to move on to the instruments and the synths. We're going to talk about the chord progression, supporting synths, how you can add to the energy from the driving vocal in the track. Third, we're going to be talking about the bass and the drums. What kind of groove does music like this style in the melodic, chill house, but also dance pop, so it makes you dance, but it also makes you feel. And lastly, something that is super overlooked that I want to show you, which is ear candy, ambience, and effects. Specifically, I'm going to be showing you how I made my latest song with Bayla G and our duo Illuzions called Closed Eyes. Let's play a little part of the song and we'll dive straight into the first part with the vocal. Musician producer who doesn't sing but loves to write and to have very vocal heavy music. These are my favorite 3 ways to get vocals for my music. The first one requires stepping a little bit out of the comfort zone. It's the one that's going to really make your songs sound best, and that is working with a real human singer. Now that will require some network, reaching off, having somebody that you can collaborate with. Honestly, what I would recommend is find that one person that you really trust. It's very hard to just work with different singers that may or may not give you the results you want. Find that one person that you trust and at least write most of your music with them. Number 2 is using sample packs, things like Splice, libraries. Those have pros and cons. They are professionally recorded. They will sound good, but they can be very overused. They can be very cheesy.
I saw your eyes in the headlights.
What kind of music works with that is music that is very production heavy, meaning that the star element of the song is not going to be the vocal, it's going to be the production. The vocal is just the little ear candy on top. In that case, it can work, but you can't just slap pop vocal from a sample pack on top of your track and claim that it's your song when realistically what's driving it is not your own. Then there's the third way, which is to be creative with AI. Now, Suno is getting so much better at making vocals, but it can be a little cheesy sometimes. What I would definitely recommend is that you write the song yourself, meaning you write the lyrics and even part of the melody. You can sing into Suno and then ask it to change it into a voice. You could use other softwares like Audemy that really change the voice. You could use combinations of AI, so you can compose it, even the lyrics with ChatGPT, then move into Suno. And with Suno, you could come up with idea concepts and you can record yourself singing it, even if you can't sing, but then use softwares like Audemy that change your voice into another singer. There's many ways you can get creative with AI. An extra bonus tip, if you have a little bit of budget and money, that can compensate for a lack of network or a lack of contacts. You can always hire a singer. If you're interested in working with Bayla G, I would love to make that connection for you. Let me know. But that's kind of what I would recommend vocal-wise to find vocals for your track. Luckily, I was very thankful to work with Bayla on this song. And let me show you how we did that. So how do we go about writing songs? Songwriting is super important, especially with this kind of more melodic vocal heavy music that Elderbrook is really popular for doing. Other artists like Bob Moses, other artists like Last Links, Rufus the Soul, all those artists, they're very strong on songwriting. So what I would recommend is you forget about production first and you treat it like it's a real song. Grab a guitar, take a piano, a keyboard, whatever you can find yourself in, put yourself in a creative space, whatever that is, and try and come up with melodies, ideas, lyric concepts that can help. Sometimes I'll be reading a book or watching a movie and I'll like a certain quote and I'll type it. That could be a cool lyric concept. Find cool lyric concepts that you could use to write songs like that. So assuming you already have a good vocal, with this, it's not like other house music where it's super important to focus on groove and other elements. Again, this is super production heavy, so don't expect to have one track with the vocal. I would expect for you to have a lot of tracks. Look, from here, from track number 3 all the way to track number 20, so we have 20 tracks of vocals. Why? Because we really wanted to make a really full sound. So what I recommend how you do that is doing doubles and harmonies, meaning having background vocals, but also having a lot of effects, reverbs, vocal chops to really add to the song and keep it moving, keep it flowing, make sure it's not boring. So here we have the lead vocal.
Oh, locked and loaded, her heart's explosive, and trust me, I should know this.
Now, what kind of effects do I add? Without getting too technical, you can let me know if you want me to get super technical and exactly how I mix the vocals. But the concept is some sort of EQ where you remove unwanted frequencies and resonant frequencies, especially for songs that are not recorded in a professional studio. You want some sort of compression, I do with the vocal rather on the RVox. What that will do is basically lower the dynamics of the tracks. As you can see here, for example, you see there's very heavy peaks in certain parts of the vocal, and by compressing it, you kind of like lower those peaks and make sure that the vocal doesn't have parts that are too loud or too quiet. Something that a lot of people miss is that they will process their vocals in a way where you can't understand the lyrics, and if you can't understand the lyrics, then there's no story to be told. So a combination of that with a little bit more EQ, compression, and reverbs and delays, that's how you get the full effect. I love using, as you can hear, the low pitch and high pitch effect to accentuate certain parts and give it a little bit more depth.
Oh, locked and loaded.
Now, what do? As soon as we have a great vocal that we love, we will record 3 takes. One is the lead, and then we will do 2 takes that are exactly the same, pan to each side. Those are going to be the doubles. So here you go.
Oh, locked and loaded.
You have one here.
And trust me, I should know
And the other one.
But I'm trapped behind closed eyes. Wish I could see right through.
And those are sitting right under the vocal. We mix them in a way where they're loud enough and wide enough we can feel them, but they're not really taking away from the main vocal. And we also align them when she's singing and also in post-processing to make sure that they're really sounding compact like one.
Oh, locked and loaded. Her heart's explosive.
Now, what else do? We have lead and we have 2 doubles. The next is adding harmonies. We like to add 2 more harmonies. Now, that'll be a stack of 5 vocals. That's where really the difference is between a professional vocal and a sample pack or an amateur vocal. It's like you have one slapped audio file with 1 lead vocal versus a stack of 5 professionally recorded vocals. So let me show you what the harmonies sound like. And again, with the harmonies, you can get a little creative with the melody. Maybe do a variation to the melody that you wish that maybe you thought of that didn't make it, or maybe lower the lead vocal a few semitones up and down and switch it up so it matches the key.
Locked and loaded. Her heart's explosive.
As you can see, some of these harmonies are sounding very over-processed, so they won't sound the best on their own, but they're being processed to sound good with the lead vocal. Sometimes that means a little heavier auto-tune or certain chops, but you want to make sure they sound good with the lead vocal, not necessarily good by themselves alone. And this would be with the lead vocal.
Oh, locked and loaded. Her heart's explosive. And trust me, I should know this.
I mean, initially you can already hear how full and beautiful this sounds. I mean, you can put any instrumental on this and it's going to work. Another thing that is worth showing is playing with a delay. Too many people are just adding a normal delay on top of the lead vocal and calling it a day. But I like to make the lead vocal a little cleaner, lowering that general delay, but then playing with effects on separate tracks where that delay really goes heavy on certain parts and automating it. Like, for example, look at this track full of delay effects with the lead vocal.
Oh, locked and loaded. Her heart's explosive.
As you can see, I chose to accentuate that specific word more than any others. And by putting it in a separate track, you can actually manipulate it and like format shift it, distort it in a way to make it sound really interesting and unexpected. Another example is right here.
But I'm trapped behind closed eyes.
Right before the drop, we like to have that closed eyes repeated. Now we have a lead vocal, we have doubles, we have harmonies, we have certain delays being accentuated. Now it's time to add something that is so undervalued, and those are adlibs. Certain O's or sounds that the vocalist can add to kind of blend with the synths and fill out parts where maybe there's an instrumental part or maybe the vocal is not necessarily that active, and you can still give it life with adlibs. In this case, the adlibs were extra processed and synthesized to really sound together with the music. And finally, my favorite thing in the world, vocal chops. Sometimes the vocals just can't do it all. There's going to be instrumental parts. You need to keep it interesting. How can you do that? Chop a vocal and treat it like a synthesizer. And I love doing that. In this case, we did it. We actually transformed our vocals into a guitar sounding lead. And let me show you. Initially, this is what we had. We took certain chops in the vocals, reversed some, stretched some, pitched some, got really creative and added a bunch of distortion and other effects. It actually came out like a guitar, and a lot of people still think it's a guitar, but it's not. Look, this is the after. And in context, this is what it sounds like. We also added another vocal chop in the intro to introduce the vocal before the verse comes in. I don't like some of the songs that will just slap the vocal straight into the verse without kind of like foreshadowing it first. I think foreshadowing is super important in music, and I love to do that with a vocal chop in the intro like this. So with this, I hope that you really are able to understand how deep a vocal production can go from just having one lead vocal to actually being able to have 20 vocal tracks all playing their part in elevating the sound of the song. If you're enjoying this video, I want to tell you, thank you for staying here. Thank you for supporting my content. I've noticed that 80 or 90% of you that are watching these videos are not subscribed to the channel. If you love electronic music, if you have a passion for music, whether it's a fan or you're a producer yourself, you like to see the process behind things. I mean, I'm going to be sharing music, mixes, production, making of tutorial of how I'm making that music. I'm even bringing back the podcast, talking to peers in the community. This is going to be a really cool channel to follow the journey of somebody like me that's been in the industry for a while, but still building up and coming in the music industry. I recommend that you subscribe. Let me know if you enjoyed it in the comments. Be there, like show me that you were there so that I can keep being motivated and keep making this music. So if you enjoy this content, just let me know in any way you know how. Either it's a DM on Instagram or a comment on this YouTube channel, subscribe, like, anything. I would really appreciate it. Let's get right back to the video. Okay, so step number 2 is going to be the synths. Now we're going to talk about chords, we're going to talk about supporting layers to the vocal, and we're going to talk about how to make the synthesizers take the vocal to the next level. With this kind of melodic and chill house music, pads are going to be super important. You want to find mellow pads, but that are still full enough to fill that low, mid kind of range that the vocal might not necessarily catch. How do we write chords, you may ask? Well, I recommend that you write the chords in the very, very beginning. Don't wait until the vocal's done, because then it might be hard to really find the chords that really work well. So whenever you're writing the song, try and do it with the piano or with the guitar if you play those instruments. If not, get somebody that does. And try and, as you compose, play around with some of the chord ideas that are going to work. Find chord progressions. A great way that I like to find chord progressions as I compose is with ChatGPT. You can tell it what kind of emotion do you want in what kind of key, and it can tell you several cadences and chord progressions. Like, you know, like it can tell you in Roman numbers, or it can tell you the actual keys. It's a great example to brainstorm before you actually write. And in this case, we wrote the chords as we were writing the song. So as soon as I opened the DAW, I already knew the chords that I was writing. And in this case, it was these. Another thing is, once you find good chords, don't just settle with them. They may work for the verse, but they may not work for the chorus. We try and change it up as well harmonically, so the song just doesn't feel like a loop. In this case, we decided to go for these 3 chords in the verse, but then we changed the chords in the chorus and the build-ups to these 4 chords. Now, again, don't just settle with chords. With this, it's like, how can we take this to the next level? I like to think often of my instruments like if it was a band or an orchestra, right? What different elements there are? Well, you are going to have somebody playing keys that's going to be playing the main chords, maybe, but then you might have a little guitar. That could be an arpeggio that you mimic with a synth, or you may have some strings, you may have some violins. So how can we really take it to the next level? And these are some of the extra elements we added. We added these Arps. And they're mainly just following the chords kind of in an upwards, taking each note from each chord and just kind of like arpeggiating them upwards. So instead of playing them da, it's kind of like da na na, and then with the octave da na na na. And I always love to add an emotional orchestral component. In this case, we were really inspired by pizzicato strings from an orchestra. So we added some pizzicato and staccato strings, something that could, before the drums really hit, still add a little groove, so it's not super mellow and still dragging you in. And there were a few synths as well that we added, kind of following that. This kind of like chords remind me of deadmau5 a little bit. I feel like he uses them, but I kind of like thought they were the electronic version of staccato strings. So we merged them, and you feel that when the vocal was playing, you did feel that lush feeling of the pads, but you still were kept with the rhythm of those staccato. Now, step 3, the groove. We're gonna talk bass line and we're gonna talk drums. So in this case, in the verse, we decided that the main rhythm was not going to be the drums. It was actually going to be the synth, the staccato strings. So now the drums, my goal wasn't necessarily to make these drums super groovy, but rather more of like atmospheric. So we added halftime drums for the first part of the verse, so that later when the normal drums would come at the regular tempo, it would feel like a dynamic switch that could grab you right back into the song. So this is what we have for the verse. So we have these claps and some toms accentuating some parts. You can see them right here. Now, as the pre-chorus and chorus comes in, we switch it back to regular time with the shaker, and we introduce a mild kick. Here, we brought some hi-hats with a shaker. And then we decided to kind of come up with a little bit of a funky bass line. Why? Because nobody would really expect something like that. And a little build up. And with that, we transition great into the drop. Now, since we brought that groovy element, what did we do with the bass line and the drop? We kept it groovy, like this. With the kick. So now we're already bouncing. Once we have that, we basically have it all. Now we add some simple house drums. As you can see here, it's a combination of certain hat elements, hat loops, and claps. The main vocal chop that was acting as the lead. If you've made it this far into the video, you better stay until the end. You're almost there, because I'm going to tell you exactly what you have to do to be able to get this entire project file and sample pack with some of the sounds that we made, some of the drums that we made over here, the way we process them for your next melodic house song like Elderbrook. Stay till the end and I will let you know how you can get that. Step number 4, the most underrated, overlooked of all. Atmosphere sounds and transitional sounds. These are going to make the song flow between each section, whether it's lush, whether it's groovy, whether it's more dancey. You need to be able to transition with this. How did we do it? So it's all about adding interesting, weird textures that are very much mixed in the background that people won't necessarily expect. In this case, we like to add a lot of drone synths. This is an example of one that we did. Notice this is not even following the chords, right? It's just this background lush layer. I recommend you either make them yourself or get them from sample packs online. Here's another example. Now with this kind of swell, nobody would really expect that to be there, right? And you probably couldn't even hear it, but it adds that certain texture. And the other thing that I actually learned from sound design in trailers and movies, they use transitional sounds, boom effects, risers, swoops, swishes. If it works so well on TV, it also works really well in music, so might as well use it. And this is an example. We use boom sounds like this. and the start of a new phrase that really sets the tone, or other transitional sounds like that. These are super important in different transitions, right? Right before the drop, it's like you add that movie sound design onto the song. And with that, you have the final result. Let's hear it again right here. Till the end, congratulations. I'm going to tell you exactly how you can get this. So all I'm asking is for you to subscribe to the channel, comment below, and send me a DM on Instagram with proof that you have done all of that. Now, if there's 10 of you guys that are doing this, I'm going to take the time to export this in detail with a professional sample pack for you at no cost at all. So that's what you got to do. Anyways, thank you so much for watching until the end. If you enjoyed it, go stream the song. We're super happy with how it's doing. We're trying to put out even more versions of it. We're working on a remix of it, an acoustic version of it. So if you enjoy it, stream it, show support in any way you know how, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.